Hello and welcome to BusyWorksBeats.com. Today we continue the music theory series right here at BusyWorksBeats.com/music theory. Today I'm going to show you how to make full-on piano melodies. I'm going to show you all the effects, all the step-by-step processes for the music theory, and I'll show you the chords, the keys. And so if you're new here, I'm Game from BusyWorksBeats.com. We've trained over 700,000 producers around the world. Some have gone to work with Drake, Young Thug, Post Malone, YG, French Montana, Ray Shremmerd, Ariana Grande, NBA Youngboy. And I know I'm missing like a lot of people, but most of the people on the Billboard charts. So shout out to all the great people putting this stuff to work. So today we're going to focus on piano melodies. And again, I'm going to guide you step by step so you don't get lost. And just as a bonus, I'll give you the project files so you can mess with them. Okay. So the first thing we need to do is pick a specific key. Now, I know you were taught to pick major or minor, but there's also these things called modes, and we teach all this stuff. So if you ever feel overwhelmed about music theory, I have a whole website dedicated to help you. Just go to BusyWorksBeats.com/music theory. I'll leave a link below so you don't get lost. But my point is, we're going to pick from other than your major and minor scales. We're going to pick something called a mode. So we're actually going to start in what's called Locrian mode. And let's just pick like a top note we like. So, okay, so E is going to be our top note. So we're in, what is it? F sharp Locrian, or you could say, yeah, F sharp Locrian in this case. All right, so we are going to use these notes as a guideline to keep a cohesion between the chords. And I'll show you techniques, so I don't want to overwhelm you with information. But all you got to do is just grab the stamp so you don't have to memorize mode codes. But we do have mode codes in our Music Theory Essentials course package, just letting you know that you can download straight to your phone as a reference guide. So anyway, Locrian is the mode. Okay, so we're going to copy this by hitting Control, left click, highlight, hit Shift, left click, and then hit Control up to pull this up one octave. So now we have 2 octaves of the same scale. Now let's group these so I don't have to keep doing this. Let's group, hit Shift G. Hopefully now that will, cool. So now if I want to move the whole thing, it'll move every note instead of me having to move note by note. Great. So that's just used as a reference. So if you don't see this little velocity thing at the bottom, double click on your piano roll bar, and left click and pull the velocity down. So these are silent notes. We're just using these as a guideline. Okay. You could even drag them out if you need to. So I'm going to pull them over to, let's do like a 156 melody. Yeah, let's do that. And let's drag this over so that we have enough room. So I like to leave at least 4 bars of room. So the first thing is you need to ask yourself, which note do I want to start my melody out on? So just go through these notes that are highlighted and figure out which note you like. So I like this note. So I'm going to start there. And this is where we use this thing called a brain. Okay, we use our brain to guide us to the next note. So I want to go dun, 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 dun. Okay, dun, 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 dun. Okay, so I'm going to repeat that. Okay, now the second time around, I'm going to go from B to C. For those who are familiar with music theory, this is called half step, meaning one note above or one note below. And that's what creates a creepy type of sound to your melody. So that's the first kind of, I'll say hack, but it's not really a hack, into getting that dark sound, is using half steps. All right, so now that we have the top line melody, again, I'll show you how to flesh all this stuff out to sound more realistic. Right now, we're just doing the basic building blocks. Imagine this is Minecraft. I'm showing you how to, mine your first cobblestone. Okay, so now that we have these notes, let's pull this up an octave so we can kind of move it out the way. Hit Control up. That might be too high, actually. Let's keep it down here. Okay, so now what we need to, well, not what we need to do, but what we can do, I should say. I'm going to copy this this scale, again, hitting Shift, and I'm going to hit Control down so that we have a lot of notes to reference. And I'm going to hit Shift G was group. Okay, so now we move all these at once. Good, okay. And so what this will help me do is now use more notes going down, because remember the notes ended at like, what was it? It was F sharp. So the notes ended like up here somewhere or down here somewhere, and I didn't know the next notes down. So that's a quick way to see the notes going downwards. Okay. So here's where it gets a little, here's where you got to start using your brain. Okay. To be straight with you. So in music theory, our ear is usually listening to the top note of a chord, and that's a generalization. It's not a always or never. It's just a generalization. So that means E is the starting note. So this means E will be the top note of some chord. Now the question is, how do you make a chord starting with one note? And that's where our scale or our mode comes into play. So if we look over here, E is right here. So all we got to do is skip every note going down this mode. So E, we're going to skip D, go to C. We're going to skip B, go to A, and skip G, go to F sharp. This is not mandatory, but you can do that. So that would be a diminished. So that's why it has that kind of awkward sound to it. This diminished root, you don't need to memorize all these terms, trust me. Okay, but that's why that sounds kind of funky. It's because this F sharp right here. So we could skip that F sharp and go skip E, go to D, and then we could leave out the F sharp. If you want more darkness, you could skip C, go to B, or you could just add that A. So there's a lot of ways to what's called voice it. So I like this voicing, which is just A minor, A, C, E. And for this type of track, we're going to drag the chord all the way out to about 2 bars. Oh, you know what? I deleted a note by accident. Okay, so we could do the same exact thing over here. Copy this, hit shift, pull it over. So it's just A minor is our main chord, and then we have that melody going on top. So it looks complicated, but if you just go step by step, really it's just 2 things happening. A chord is being played, a very simple chord called a triad, and then we have a melodic top line going. Okay, so now I'm adding what's called a tone that helps us pass into the next chord. Okay, so I'm going to drag this whole structure. So F sharp is that bottom note. Let's pull this over. So now we're working on the second section. Okay, so this section of notes needs to move somewhere or feel like it's going somewhere. It doesn't necessarily have to in hard music or dark piano, but for longer compositions, you want to make the chords move. Let me make sure I'm recording this because that would, okay, we are good. Had to double check because last time I recorded and it didn't record for like 30 minutes and I wasted my breath. So I have to always triple check. Okay, so now our ears, dun, dun. Okay, now my ear wants to hear F, but the problem is F isn't in this specific key. Now we could go outside the key and grab what's called a borrowed chord. We could do that and pull it back into this key, but I'm gonna keep it pretty basic and not do that. Now my ear wants to hear a half step here. So my ear is telling me F needs to be in here somewhere. Now this is the tricky part with music theory. Most people think that if they pick a key, they have to stay in that key, and that's not always the truth. So here's where it gets a little tricky. And I'm trying to debate where I want to add this F, because I think the F sounds more pleasing over here. But that's definitely what my ear wants to hear. Now, if you wanted to do the more math approach, you could do the 1, 6, 5, 4, the 1, like the Roman numerals that people talk about. So since we started on A, technically A is not the root of this scale, it's F sharp. So let's make it easy and let's pull this down just as a reference to F sharp. Okay, so that we can map it up perfectly with this scale. The reason I'm doing this is because I don't want to confuse you with the shape of this mode to the right. Okay, so this note is not in this scale. Oh, you know what? My bad. Duh. I forgot. Since we transposed all these notes, I got to make sure are actually in our scale. So I'm glad I did that because that might be something you do. So you can't just pull down the chords and be like, okay, we're good now. So I'm glad I did that. That was an accidental. I just overlooked the fact that we would be changing the entire key that way. So without giving you a lecture on why I just said what I said, the point is if I were to move everything, I would have to move this as well. So this has to follow this. So let's just, since I started on A, and that's what's called the tonal center, we can do other things. Now we can go from the second, or G, back to the 5. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So C. I'm gonna have to voice this different. Okay, so I'll show you how to, so there's more to this because we're doing what's called, I'm shifting the tonal center. So that's why I'm doing this kind of formula. Because since I use these notes, I'm just giving you the science behind it. I'm not trying to harp on this too long, but this, since we started in A minor, it sounds like we're in the key of A minor. So the brain's not thinking that we're in F sharp, we're Locrian. It thinks we're in A minor. So I'm trying to readjust the ear to know that we're not in that specific key. Okay, so this is going to be a long one because I kind of am doing key modulation within itself, which is interesting. All right, so we're in A natural minor. Then we move over to F sharp Locrian in this case. Now this, I'm going to make these smaller so we don't have to wait that long for it to change. Boom. Okay, so we got to make that more animated. So that's the basic movement. So I'm going to move a little bit quicker here. So it's the same principles. We're going to take these bottom notes, hit control, left click and highlight, hit shift, left click and drag, hit control up so that we have them up an octave. Then we need to harmonize these notes using the scale degrees to the right. So if you're starting at G and you want to build a chord extension, you want to take G as the bottom note and then you skip every other note going up the scale. So skip A, go to B. Skip, where we at? Skip A, go to B, skip C, go to D. So we have G major. And skip E, go to F sharp. Just adding that in just to see what it sounds like. Now, I know this sounds jazzy, but I'm using this extra note to see what happens if we do some inversion. So what happens if I pull that down? Okay, so now we're at C. We're going to go to this mode to the right. So looking at C, let me move this back. Looking at C, we're going to, C is the root note. We're going to skip every other note, So C, skip D, go to E. Skip F sharp, go to G. So that makes C major. So since we're going from minor to major, I got to be careful here. That's why I'm adding this seventh, because that's how I can kind of trick the ear into thinking it's not a major chord. So we're going to skip A, go to B. That sounds happy-esque. So we're going to pull that top note down. Okay. So again, I'll probably move a couple more notes here. I'm not done there. But F sharp, we're going to go to F sharp. Skip G, go to A. Skip B, go to C. Skip D, go to E. Now this is an F major 7 chord. So notice we're going from, or F sharp major, or what is this? No, it's diminished. So it's 0, 1, 2, 3. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So we have, what is that, diminished 7th if it uses the minor 7th. Okay, so this is going to sound quirky. I already know, just by the numbers. Actually, it sounds super fire. Diminished or like hit and miss, like it's either fire or it's not. Now that one's fire. So I want you to notice, again, we're going from minor to more major chords over here. That's what happens when you do key modulation. You're kind of switching the perception. Not kind of, you are. I like that octave. Okay, so I'm adding another octave. And now let's fill out the B chord. So we're going to go to B, skip C, go to D. And skip, what is it, E, go to F sharp. That will make this a 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's a minor chord. And I added another octave of B up here. Okay, I feel like that's a more full sound. It still has a dark sound, even though we're using those seventh chords, but it still doesn't sound overly jazzy. So now what I'm going to do is thicken up this bass. So we're going to take all these notes, the bottom notes, I think. Yeah, grab these, hit shift, duplicate those, hit control down, and now just fill that out. And it just ends on that E. Let's hear what happens if we loop this back without that last chord. Actually, it's not even a chord, it's just octave. My ear wants to hear E after it goes through all that. So the question is, how do we add this E but still make it loop back to A? So let's fill in this E chord at the end and let's just see what it gives us. So we have E, looking at this scale, excuse me, outline, skip F sharp, go to G, skip A, go to B, that's E minor. And then hold that. Maybe we could do some melodic notes on top. Now the question is, how does that loop back to A minor? Now E is a fifth of A. That's the relationship between E to A. So that should naturally have a resolve when you go from the fifth to the tonic. Then we could do like some high pitched notes. That works. So now we can add the tickle notes. That's what I call a very music theory term. Go to snap. Let's go to 1/3. And here's where you can do the high pitch 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3 type of stuff. Okay, so da 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 da. Okay, so this is just accent stuff, kind of like the garnish on food. Da-da-da. Copy this. Just go with your brain. There's no right or wrong here. Just listen to your brain. Okay, so it's just, again, garnish, nothing crazy. And I'll show you how to make all this. So now the question is, do we need like a motif going all the way through? And do we want 1, 2, 3, 4, or do we want triplets? If we use triplets, the ear wants to hear 3 notes at a time. So since we're moving 4 notes, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, luckily, that last one's an octave, but here we're not using octaves. So it's the question is, okay, so let's do this. Let's switch it over to triplets. I actually like that bouncy. I like that bounce a lot more. So I switched the timing from quarter notes, 1, 2, 3, 4. You're gonna hear a lot of piano players usually play in triplet timing, which is 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And it's just more of a natural, what do you call it? Like a I'm not using the proper word here, but dexterior. I know that's probably not the word. Dexterity. I know that's the root word, but it's more easy to play with your body, okay? Whatever proper grammar word that would be. I haven't been to school in a while. Okay, so now we are going to remember these notes A, B, C. Oh, we can't forget those notes A, B, C. So we're going to take these notes out, copy it over, and we have A, B, C in here as well. So it might sound good. Okay, so that motif works all the way through, so we don't need to even create a change up unless you absolutely need one or want one. And when you add those triplets, it feels like two different things, even though it's one thing happening, which is one piano. It feels like two separate entities. Okay, so these tickle notes, optional, not mandatory. But it's a way to kind of keep the movement going, because in the beginning we have this pattern. Also, you want to drag these notes out to emulate what's called a sustain pedal. Hit Alt. Well, let's grab these notes, hit Control, hit Alt L. Make sure only with selection is on, so you can drag out those notes. So see how it looks complicated, but it's really just a bunch of pieces put together. It looks complicated. And I'll show you how to humanize the melody in a second. And I'll show you how to add the effects. And let's try dragging these out so it acts like the sustain pedal's on. I wish there was like a no overlap button. But so when notes overlap in FL, you just got to make sure. So you can grab all these notes, hit Alt L, make sure only with selection is on, hit accept. And you could just hit Control on the whole key and do that if you want. It's a lot quicker. And that way the notes don't overlap, because if they overlap, sometimes FL mutes the note. So when I do where's that at? Let's copy this over. Drag these notes out. Right, there we go. Now, if you wanted that dun dun dun, dun, you could continue that motif going through, that rhythm going through. Let's see what happens if I use that same note structure going through. So again, now we're just taking the pieces that we already created and just arranging the actual music, moving stuff around the same way you would move your hi-hats around. We're moving the music around. So it's the same. You're good at this. You've been doing it. We're just taking the pieces and moving it around, almost like it's an FL playlist. That sounds fire. Yeah, that sounds super fire. Oops, I did that by accident, but I'm glad I did that, because I just do stuff by accident, but it sounds so fire. Did that sound too cocky? Leave a like if you think that was a super cocky statement. We're going to grab this, pull it over, and we're going to hit Control up. So what I did was I duplicated everything we did, and now I'm just pulling it up one octave. And that's a quick way to make it seem like we're doing a lot, but we're not. And I know I'm saying a lot, but you don't have to move the whole thing up an octave. You could just move those top motifs up an octave, those tickle notes, those garnishes, so to speak. So you can pull everything else down an octave if it gives you that dark bass that you need. You'll hear, let's skip to it. See how the melody went up an octave? Okay, cool. Okay, now we gotta humanize this thing. So we're not done yet. So again, I teach this stuff, and you're gonna get this MIDI for free. Let me save this MIDI just in the case that I do crazy stuff to it. Let's export, and I'm gonna give you this. It's called Dark Piano Melody 1. Okay, why does it keep putting me in the wrong folder? Desktop. Okay, there we go. So that's the first one. Now, what was I going to tell you? I forgot that quick. We're going to add effects to this, and there was something else I was going to say, but I forgot. Okay, now we're going to humanize. So let's hit Alt. Oh, here's what I was going to say. If you want to learn this stuff, we have full courses in our premium section. Just go to busyworksbeats.com/premium. We go through this stuff the same exact way here. I go in depth and I tell you exactly why we do stuff so that you have the actual understanding. So go to busyworksbeats.com/premium to learn more about premium. And also we have music theory courses specifically. It's a bundle course. So you can learn more at busyworksbeats.com/music theory is our free stuff. But if you go to our website, it'll be just busyworksbeats.com, and you could click around and look for the music theory essentials bundle. It's there. Okay, so now we're going to humanize this. Let's hit Alt R. That's going to randomize. So hit pattern mode, turn that off, or else it's going to look like a mess. Go to levels and just turn up the velocity. Hit enter. I learned that from Chris. Shout out to Chris. Just makes your piano sound more realistic. Then hit Alt X. So let's say you wanted what's called a softer articulation. It depends on how the plugin was made. Not every plugin is made the same way. But you could pull the multiply button to kind of create like a softer tone if that's how your piano's set up. So let's say you wanted like an intro to kind of start out soft. And so let's do that. Let's just do it. Let me save this so that there's different versions of it. Okay, let's do 2. Okay, so we're going to take this whole first section. To highlight the whole section, you just grab the black bar up top, hit Control, left click and highlight. It grabs all the notes. Hit Alt X. We're going to make it start off on a softer tone, like right here. Hit Accept, and then it's going to open up to the regular tone to the right. That way you have more dynamic in your music, and then it opens up into the harder tones. So that's why it's more expressive. Now, one kind of last thing, you don't need it all the time, so use this sparingly. So hit Control, left click the whole top bar, hit Alt S, and you can mess with the alternate direction button. But this basically adds like a loose timing. So just mess with your time strength. Adds like a slur to the chords. So it goes. It sounds pretty good so far. I don't mess with the velocity because that messes up the randomness. And sometimes if you use too much strength, it adds like almost like an attack to the sound, so it makes it soft, like. So this is optional, not mandatory. For this case, I'm not going to use it because I don't want to mess up what we have. Okay, so now let's get into the effects, and this will be the last portion of this specific video. I need you to smash the like button if you didn't already, because I just gave you a whole bunch of game today. Now, here's where it gets, this is where you create your own like sound. Trying to think what kind of sound do we want to go for. So many options here. We can go for like a saturated tone first. So let's do, what's a good set? I'm going to use the Bus Force. I like the saturator on this. And basically, this is by Arturia as well. I'm just going to use the saturation knob to create what are called harmonics. So it just thickens out the sound, basically. Makes it more edgy, almost like a rock guitar. Okay, so that just adds the edge that we need. Hear how it sounds a little bit buzzy. I'm gonna pull the input trim down so we don't slam the saturator. All right, so a couple other effects you want are reverb. So let's open up another mixer channel. Let's open up reverb, and we might as well keep it Arturia stuff because their new plugins are actually good. Reverb, intense. I always mix these up though. Let's do spring reverb because that's a little bit different than your typical reverb. And we want the decay up. We want the width stereo. Actually, let's start mono because that's what makes spring reverb sound cool most of the time. Let's go to advanced. Do we have an input? Yeah, we do. So let's cut out the lows here. I know I'm moving a little bit quickly, but let's just cut out the lows and cut out the highs to about 5K, just so it doesn't get too huge in the reverb, because reverb is an instrument and it could take up a lot of space, and a lot of people don't monitor their reverb. Anyway, go to your piano, left click the up arrow, and it's sending. So if I hit spacebar, you hear that little tail that's adding, it's filling in the gaps of the piano with reverb, it's called. So if I open up the width, it will make the piano sound bigger, but I like it in mono. So this is a blend of, this is the mix level. So let's turn that all the way up. And what else? There's a lot of knobs in here. Oh, there's a pre-filter right here. I didn't notice this. Let's add a little pre-delay. Yeah, Arturia went above and beyond with their Space Echo. Sounds cool. Okay, so if it's too much reverb, you can always go back to your piano, just left click this knob and pull it back. Okay, now I'm gonna get into FL Native stuff. I think, darn, which Arturia plugin has this? Man, it's slipping my mind right now. But anyway, let's go to Fruity Delay 3. Where's that? Fruity Delay 3. And we're gonna turn the dry level down, turn the feedback level down, turn the delay time all the way down. So now all the other knobs become effects. And let's turn up what's called time modulation. Creates that pitch wobble effect that you're hearing a lot. Let's pull back this reverb. Reverb's a little heavy. Then at this point you would clean up the mix. Maybe it's too much low end or whatever. So this is where you would spend the time to get the mix perfected. I'm just gonna quickly make a couple adjustments here, not go crazy with it. Also, you wanna look into a compressor. There's a lot of compressors. You could use the Arturia stuff. Let's do a tube. Mess with this input. This is where you can add more harmonics as well. I didn't realize these were linked. So if you needed more high end, more harmonics, I should say, you could drive it into this. So again, the changes I'm making from here aren't going to be super audible. They're very basic. You know, reverb, delay, that's going to be your next thing. So I don't want to, again, waste time on like the little nuances, because it's not like something you would dramatically hear. So it's kind of pointless to show you. But that's how you do it. So I'm going to let this play twice through. Oh, one last thing. One more thing. So Pan Man is a way to make your sounds more animated. You could also use Tremolator if you're using like guitar stuff, but this is a really good one to just give it a little more like movement. Just gotta be careful with this one because it snaps to the grid. So sometimes you gotta pull up this knob here, the field knob, and you hear how it kind of cuts off the sound. Gotta be careful. So it's kind of harsh sometimes. So that's what the smooth knob is for. That might be too much movement, but it just creates a little more animation instead of just a stale sound. Now we're so used to this key, so let's transpose the key. Did I save this MIDI? Let me save it one more time. Again, you're gonna get the project files, so don't worry about memorizing all that stuff. Let's hit Shift up. All right. So a lot of movement. So again, this is the new era of melody. It's more than just the notes we play, it's the effects we use as well. So if you want to learn more about this, just go to busyworksbeats.com/premium. If you want to learn music theory for free, just go to busyworksbeats.com/music-theory. And you can also look out for our Music Theory Essentials course package. I'll leave all the links below because I know I said a lot of links. But thank you for watching today. Just smash the like button on your way out. Subscribe if you're new. It's Game from busyworksbeats.com.